Hey there, infinite beings. Welcome back to the Infinite Me with Nat and Mandy. Good to have you here. So this is where we have lots of conversations about being infinite, the fact that you're already infinite. You don't have to go and find it. You don't have to discover it. You just have to use it. It's actually available to all of us all of the time. So yesterday we tackled probably the more controversial topic of religion. Came up in conversation, and these are all just flow conversations we're having. They're not scripted. Start with a basic topic and we see where it goes. So yesterday we did end up on the topic of religion, and we gave some thoughts around that. I've had some good feedback, some very interesting feedback from people who really felt the same thing. So yesterday's topic really was about taking your power back, not putting your power into outside forces, I guess. A lot of people in the spiritual realm talk a lot about using angels or guides, or I guess in religion we're talking about God. And absolutely nothing, the conclusion we came to, absolutely nothing wrong with having those as our source of information, as long as we're not putting it on a pedestal, feeling like particularly guides and gurus and teachers and all those sorts of things, as long as we're not putting them on a pedestal thinking they have more information than us, because as an infinite being, you have access to all the information all of the time. You just have to ask for it. So that's really what we're talking about here. Today we wanted to continue with that conversation a little bit and dive a little bit more into the topic of, the information didn't come in the form that I wanted it to come in. So we have a set idea of how we would like to be presented the information. And I guess it starts with a bit of a joke. We were talking last night after our session, Mandy and I, and it came in the form of a joke. Do you want to tell that joke, Matt?
Yeah, I think so, if I can remember.
I think it was a perfect example of, example of exactly what we're talking about here.
Yes. Yeah. So I think it was, I'm trying to think if I'll probably butcher the joke, but it was kind of around the way of, like, there was a man stuck in a flood, and so he's trapped basically in the middle of this flood water, and so a boat comes past and someone's like, quick, give me your hand, I'll help you into the boat. And he's like, no, it's okay, I'm going to wait, God's going to come save me, I'm okay, thank you. And so the person goes off. The next thing, a helicopter comes across and they're like shouting down, with a megaphone saying, we'll drop a ladder down to you, and we'll save you. And they're like, no, I'm okay, thank you, I'm waiting for God to save me. And I'm trying to think what the third, there's another option that comes past, like maybe someone's on the side of the river and they're trying to hand something out to the side, like, hang on, grab this and I'll pull you in, and throw a life buoy out to you and grab it and put it around you and I'll drag you in. And no, it's okay, thanks, God's going to save me, I'm okay, I've got faith. And then so next thing, the man passes away, like the flood water, he sort of drowns in the flood water, and so he's up in heaven, and he's up, sees God, and he's like, God, why didn't you save me? Like, I was waiting for you to come and save me from the floodwaters. And God's like, well, I sent you a boat, I sent you a helicopter, and I sent you the person on the side of the river, and you didn't take any of the options. So it's like, it's just kind of that demonstrating that thing that we think the help has got to come in a certain form, and then we don't see it, like, because we've just got this fixed idea of how it's got to come to us. And then maybe it's, there's guidance all around us. It is us, like, as we've kind of were touching on yesterday too, is like everything is us, so it's all coming to us from the outside, just in a different form. But we attach certain stories to how we think it's going to come, like it's got to come as a voice from God, or I've got to hear it through my angels, but maybe it comes from your neighbor across the road who just happens to ask you a question that prompts something for you, but you don't kind of pay attention to it because you're thinking it's got to come in another form. So yeah,
that's definitely my experience as well. When you're really open, like totally open to wherever it can come from, it's amazing where it shows up. One of my fun ones is t-shirts, looking at people's t-shirts. So I've been doing that a lot lately, actually, just seeing what's written on a t-shirt. And just so many times I've just laughed to myself and went, oh, that's really funny, actually, that message right there. There's a whole table of inspirational quotes yesterday on a clothing store that we had gone into in the mall just down here.
Yes.
And, I was just reading some of them, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like, there's some really good ones there. But yeah, it's amazing. Just people walking towards you,
Yes.
wearing a shirt, billboards on the side
Billboard,
of the
I was gonna say a billboard or something. Yeah.
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 Graffiti, stuff just written in different places. And it's like they all carry messages. And they don't have to be written things either. It could be a visual thing as well, that you come across a painting or a graffiti or something like that. That's like, oh, wow, I feel drawn into that.
Well, the type of thing sometimes too I do, and I've heard other people do this too, is like you just pick up a book that you kind of feeling called to, and maybe a page number pops into your head, or you just open it to a page, or it falls open sometimes to a page, and it's just the exact thing that you need to read in that moment. Like it just, answers something that you kind of been asking yourself, or just makes you think about something a little bit different. Like it kind of shifts your focus to kind of back to the, oh no, I am always supported. Like I am always connected in. It's like this is me. Yeah, that reminder's cool.
Just overhearing somebody's conversation, you only catch like a sentence or two as they pass by, or on a train or something like that, and you hear it and you go, oh God, that was a message for me. Like that's exactly what I needed to hear right now. You switch the TV on and you walk past or something, and there's a something that you've heard.
Yes,
it's actually quite amazing, and to me that's just total evidence that the infinite is always here, always guiding. It's just how much are we actually listening, and how much are we actually blocking out, as we started this conversation with, of going, no, it's not in the form that I want it in or expect it in.
Expected, I think, is probably the big thing, isn't it, that stops you seeing things.
Yeah, definitely. It's almost like you shut down type thing. And I mean, there's plenty of scientific studies where people are talking about, when you're looking for a red car, suddenly they're everywhere type thing, that reticular activation in the brain. Yeah, so your brain suddenly switches on to looking for that particular thing, and it'll see it everywhere all of a sudden.
Yes. So it's almost like exactly what you're saying with that. It's just like what is your brain, if you're going to use your brain to help you, it's like, well, what are you actually focusing on? Because your brain will focus on the things that you want it to focus on. So are you looking for evidence to support your theory that you are alone and you're not connected in, and you're not supported, and you don't have guidance, and you can't hear God? And are you tapped into that and you're constantly looking for evidence for that? Or are you looking for evidence that you're always supported and having fun with it and looking for the signs? And it doesn't mean like you're constantly like looking around either, because that becomes a bit of an ego thing too, that you kind of constantly, oh, maybe it's this, or maybe it's going to be in this book, and it's kind of, that becomes a bit of a quest in itself. Yeah, like I've done that before too, where I was kind of like, oh, I feel like I need a message. Oh, I'll go to this book, and it's kind of like a forced, and you read the paragraph, and it's like, yeah, that's not really resonant. It's like, well, it kind of wasn't
an agenda at that
stage.
It
is. It definitely is. Yeah, it's definitely not trusting that thing's going to come through me, and I'm going to be guided in the moment, or I'm just going to receive the thing that needs to come through. So it is, this is like, what are you tuned into? Like, what are you for evidence that you are everything, and that the infinite energy is running through everything, and you get to play with it all? Or are you looking for the opposite?
Yeah, because whatever you're looking for, you're going to find, Like, you're actually looking for evidence that you're not supported, then 100% you'll get that. So it is about, I guess that's where our free will actually starts coming in a little bit more too. It's like, is this all predestined type thing, all these messages and, giving you direction about where you're headed, or do you have free will? And this is the eternal question that everyone has. Is it predestined or free will? My feeling is that they are one and the same thing. If you're 100% present, you'll actually be tuned into exactly what is true for you, and that is your predestiny, but it's also your free will at the same time. So they're actually the same.
Because it's whether you act on that feeling coming through you. So I guess that's where your free will kind of comes in, because there's always feelings coming through you, like from the infinite consciousness. When you're tapping into that, it's always moving through. It's just whether you tap into that and you choose to follow it then in the moment, because you can also say, no, I don't want to do that. So that's where I guess the free will part does come in, really, like at the core level.
I think the other free will part too is your attitude towards what shows up. So something presents, an experience presents in front of you, and you get to choose how you actually feel about that in that moment. So to me, that's a free will as well. Do you see that as a support mechanism?
Yes.
Or are you going to see that as a really negative challenge and harsh, and we start finding evidence for that sort of stuff as well. And it's like, okay, which way do you want to go with it?
Yes.
So that, to me, that's the free will. Your attitude towards something is free will as well.
Yeah, I would say so too. Because I'm just thinking, if you got challenged by somebody, I don't know, I'm just trying to think of a scenario, but like, say you're kind of falling on hard times a little bit and you're sort of struggling a little bit financially, and so one of your parents decides to step in and help, or maybe this is a pattern, say that this has been happening, that you kind of get yourself into these situations and they bail you out constantly. And so I guess someone would call it like enabling, I guess, in sort of psychology terms, like enabling someone's behavior by keep supplying the thing that they need all the time, but not actually teaching them how to be independent. So eventually maybe someone draws the line and just goes, no, you know what, I'm not going to lend you money anymore. You need to kind of learn how to stand on your own 2 feet. And so, no, the answer is no this time. And so you could kind of go, oh, you're not helping me, not supporting me, and kind of, kick and scream about all of that and see it as a negative, I guess, like what you just said, Nat. But it's also like, well, how could you switch that around? It's just like, well, you're being asked to step up. Like, how do you learn how to do things for yourself or push yourself out of your comfort zone? Or this idea of like pressure, we were talking about a few videos ago about that. Pressure is good. There's nothing wrong with pressure or stress sometimes, because it's actually how things grow and expand and change. It's how things created in the universe. Like there has to be some kind of pressure to make it happen in the beginning, but it's when it's that unnecessary pressure that we put on ourselves, as we spoke about. Like that's when it gets like that self-imposed. But like something like somebody kind of saying no to you when you're used to always them saying yes, you might get caught in a cycle of that and think, oh, I'm not supported, this and that. Or you could flip it completely around and kind of go, oh, okay, it's a bit scary, I don't quite know how to do this, but I'm going to have to learn how to do this now. And you're going to feel so much more power. This whole thing about reclaiming your power from these stories that you've built for yourself, that's what the whole thing is about, is just taking back that sense of, power that you've put outside of yourself again in a story, whereas knowing that, no, it's coming from completely in me and it has to shift from inside me for my outside manifestations to change.
Yeah. And you could see that scenario as one of the most loving things someone could do for you type thing, because they believe in you enough that you can be independent and strong enough to survive that experience and step up. And maybe they're trying to get you to step up, even subconsciously trying to get you to step up because they know that you're more. So it's like, okay, you could be seeing that scenario as the most loving thing somebody could do for you, and the most trusting and inspiring type thing. You haven't believed in yourself, but they believe in you enough to step up and go and create your own income, your own money type thing in that scenario. So it really is, which way do you want to go with it? Like, to me, that is the free will aspect that we all have about how we observe something and how we take it on board and process it and then act on it or not act on it.
And I think that sort of brings up that other point around we touched on yesterday around like say you do use things like angels to tap, you find that works for you and you get messages that way and you tap into that. And so it was that whole thing around just knowing that it is actually you that's giving you that message. Like, it's not separate to you, it's not something you have to connect into to get that message. It's this infinite energy runs through everything. But then things like different gurus or teachers that we might follow, and they're sort of on our path to kind of help us get to the next level of expansion, if you get, of like coming home to ourselves and knowing ourselves as that. But then people get stuck in that trap of and this is sometimes where the teachers get stuck in this too, and they're sort of teaching this, if you like, or they're kind of projecting this feeling that they have all the answers and the student is not as empowered as them or as enlightened as them. And people get stuck in that game where they do give all their power away to the teacher, and that's when they become that guru status, because a guru kind of almost, that's probably, I'm not sure the exact meaning of guru, but it kind of has that connotation of they know better than me, they're more enlightened, and I have to kind of follow what they're doing because they're better at this than I am, sort of thing. But I just thinking where I was going to go with that was more around that idea then that sometimes you don't actually question what the teacher tells you sometimes. So like you might have a mentor or a teacher that's actually very good at tuning into energy or seeing where you're at and can kind of reflect that back to you. But if you only ever just take that as like the truth, the absolute truth, and never question it, and see if it actually feels true for you, and you just follow it, you know, religiously without question, that's where you end up giving your power away, and you'll end up resenting that teacher in time. That's just how the cycle goes in duality. It's just that put someone on the pedestal and then they end up in the pit, which is Dr. Don DeMartini used to say that all the time. Which is so true, because if you look at cycles of people that you've followed, it doesn't have to be a teacher, just anyone in your life that you've really admired and really put up on it in a very exalted state, that they have more power or confidence or charisma or whatever than you, and then you'll end up resenting them in time, because it ends up becoming like a in some ways it's your infinite self trying to wake you up to that truth that you can't be in that exalted state, because you're basically putting your power outside of yourself. So then when you end up putting them in the pit, it's almost like, oh, now I get to take my power back. Like that's how the cycle ends up going.
That's how you do it.
So it's this constant up, down, up, down, up, down, which is what duality is, that constant positive has to be balanced by the negative. We're looking for that neutral space. That's the infinite energy. There is no positive, there is no negative. There is no masculine, there is no feminine. It's all the one energy. There is no division. It's just continuous energy that flows through everything. But it's just that sense of, don't just question things. Like when they don't feel, you have to get really good at tuning into that feeling coming through yourself. And if it's actually true for you, to do that thing, or to take that action, or to take that course that they might be suggesting, or to, a lot of time teachers do get tapped into that game of, it becomes about success and money and fame for them as well. And, do you need to do that next course? Like spend that thousands of dollars doing that next thing if it doesn't feel true for you? Sometimes you just think, oh, this is going to be the thing that fixes my life. That's usually a pretty sure sign that it's an ego identity running that, looking for an agenda to fix, change, or approve your story.
Well, so much from what you just said. I think one of the key things is, and I've fallen for this as well, where you have a teacher that's a very strong teacher and with a strong message, and you really resonate with it at the time, and you go into it and it's sort of like they're the only ones that have the information for you at that time. So you sort of block everything else out unless it's related to that teacher and their message.
True. I've done that, definitely.
And you become so absorbed into their world and their message, and it's definitely helping along the way. Like it is waking you up and you're becoming more empowered in some ways, but it sort of does reach that point of where the help also almost becomes a hindrance type thing. Because you're not seeing anything else at that point. You're so absorbed into that work and into that teacher, and they're the only ones that have the answer, and you become almost defensive. I've seen this in myself and also in other people. We become almost defensive if someone goes against that. Suggests anything else, tries to introduce a new concept to that, tries to expand it in any way. Like, and it's sort of like, no, like the way it is. Like it's, it definitely is this way. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. So, I guess just being aware of that, that is eventually going to happen. You become so absorbed into that piece of work, that body of work, or that teacher, and because that's where you've put your power type thing, and then you're not looking at anything else. Forgetting that every single thing is part of the one. It's all the one energy. So it's meant to come from everywhere. Like all the messages are meant to come from all different forms and all different states, all different teachers. And so going into a new program is not to say don't do a new program if you're actually sort of feeling to do a new program, but it's like I'm going to go into it with the knowing that this person is only my reflection, that whatever information they give me and that I resonate with was me talking to me at that time, and I will take it on board. This is how I am choosing to receive my next set of messages from myself.
I think so too. It's just that it does have to be a true feeling. I've definitely signed up for things and, in hindsight then kind of go, that was definitely driven by an agenda to kind of fix, change, and improve my story. It's kind of, and it doesn't mean that you might not get any benefit from it, but I've definitely taken some courses where it's just like, this is not really what I thought it was going to be. And it does feel like you've kind of wasted your money in some ways on it, because but you can totally see at the time what the reasoning behind it was. And that's, I still think that they're very valuable kind of insights that you get to kind of go, wow, I separated myself there. Look at that. Like, I kind of put my power outside of myself again, that I didn't know actually how to, solve this solution for myself, like to come up with find the creativity in that thing and come up with a way to make that work for myself as well. So the thing that was just coming up when you were talking about only getting tapped into one teacher and things too, is that like it can go the other way. And I know I've definitely fallen into this trap, is where you sign up for everything under the sun, like that. There's always these free summits, lots of teleseminars and webinars, and I mean, Facebook's littered with them in terms of sign up for this free webinar, and the 6 fastest steps to building a 6-figure business. And so it could look in the form of like money things, or it could be spirituality things about how to connect into your guides, and or it could be things like a light worker, what's the different gifts that a light worker has, and find out what yours is, and how to activate your DNA, like all the different things. And there's nothing, there's some amazing things out there, like if you want to tap into them and play with them. But it's when you kind of go into them with the idea that, like, oh, this person has the answer. This is the thing I need to know. This is the missing piece. Yeah, it's that need. It's always driven by that need, which is the ego. It's and so I've done that too, where I've just signed up for so many different things, and then so you're on people's email lists, so you're getting all these blog posts, or just like things in your inbox, and then you start noticing you're getting frustrated because there's so many things coming into your email and you can't get to them all. And so it ends up kind of being like a hindrance, as like you touched on before. It's just like sometimes what was like nice, good information at the time, maybe you just needed to hear that one thing that person said, and that was it. Like, you don't need to actually tap into their information for the rest of the time. But I can see where I've done that with sign up to so many things, because the search was always outside of me. Like, I was always looking for the answer, not recognizing that I had the same ability to tap into that wisdom for myself, because it is me at the end of the day. So there was that disconnection happening, that what we talked about yesterday, that separation happens where we think, or it might be the day before that, actually, we were talking about that idea of there is no separation between the infinite consciousness that animates everything here in this life and our human form. There's no separation. So we can't be an ego and then tap into, consciousness. Is like, no, consciousness is the all-pervasive energy that runs through everything all the time. We're just temporarily forgotten it when we're in our ego. So I just sort of found that too, that, if you find yourself sort of looking for the answers all the time and signing up for everything, just kind of step back and ask yourself, like, save yourself some time and energy and money, because I've definitely done that, where you just, you're looking for it outside of you all the time. It's just let it come to you. Like, if something truly resonates and you feel like signing up to that webinar, then do it if it feels true. But don't do it from that space of, I need the answer and they have the answer and I don't have that answer. That's there's definitely a sign of the ego connecting into that, putting your power outside of you.
I can definitely relate to that, because over the last fair few years, like when we started traveling, we had to create an income, and it's on online income definitely is not my background. So it's sort of like, I have to learn how to create an online income. So that is marketing. And I've found it very fascinating over the years, because it is a lot about consciousness and psychology. Like, marketing essentially is all about that, and human behavior. So it's been really fascinating. But I have noticed over the years, a bit like you were saying, signing up to so many different webinars and so many different softwares and so many tools and things like that. They've largely been quite fun and sort of interesting along the way, but there definitely has been driven underneath it a need-driven sort of thing about, okay, I need to have this next piece of information type thing about marketing, because it's always changing. There's always new stuff on the internet. You could just go forever in learning new ways to earn an online income and new improvements. And some of them are very, very clever, like some of the technologies and stuff people are coming up with, like super clever.
Yes.
So there is definitely that interest element, but there's also that need absolutely driven underneath it of like, oh, this whole FOMO thing, you know, fear of missing out.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, if I don't do this webinar, I'm going to miss out on these 3 points, and I'm not sure what those 3 points are that they're going to make, because it might be something absolutely crucial to our next step in putting ourselves out there. So it's just gone on forever. Like there's been years and years of learning, and I'm grateful for that learning because I now have pretty much a marketing degree, I feel like. Self-done marketing degree.
Yes.
But so funny coming into this project now, because my natural progression was to, oh, well, I know all this stuff now. I'll actually bring it into this new project. And I even started that way with you, like sort of, we can do this and we can do that. And I've got this whole thing mapped out about how it's all going to be marketed and all this sort of stuff. And I just sort of stepped back and went, I'm not feeling any of that anymore. Like, I was really honest. I don't want to do any of that. I just want to do these conversations. If we feel to put a course together, which we are feeling, let that, you know, naturally progress as we unfold that and put that out there. And who knows how we're going to market that type thing. Like,
or you'll use the tool that you need at the time that you need it, rather than putting in a big effort into getting it all ready first. Like, I mean, that's a big thing. I mean, and even I kind of, it's kind of interesting because my background is graphic design. So it's sort of interesting when I hear people say, oh, you don't need branding or a logo to get started. And you absolutely don't. Like, it is. But it's kind of funny when you go, well, but that's my bread and butter kind of thing. Like, you can't tell people that they don't need a logo and branding before they get started. So it's kind of like, there's this interesting kind of thing that goes on, because I can absolutely see how sometimes that is the right step for somebody to start something, because it actually gives them a grounding of like what they're about to, because maybe someone steps in and helps them clarify what their actual audience is, and like if you know a good designer or a good marketer is going to help you with that to make sure that you're on point with who's your actual target market, like who's your audience, what do you want to talk, what's unique about you, what do you want to share around that. So sometimes that process can be very helpful, but I can also see too where it holds people back, because you get so caught up in, oh, I have to get the right design, I have to get the right colors, otherwise it means it's not going to work. And it's kind of like, so it's that type of thing that, you know, sometimes too much information is not good, because it holds you back because you think you need it. So that's a very key point to look for yourself too, is like, if you can sit back and go, do I feel like I need to do this, or I need to sign up to this thing, or I need to go on that retreat, then absolutely it's coming from ego point. So it's kind of sit back and just see if it's true. And if it's true, it will come through. You'll feel that feeling, and it won't feel like it's coming from a need to fill a void or to satisfy something or to fix, change or improve. You'll just feel like, no, this feels like a natural progression, my next step of what I want to embark on. And then follow that feeling, and then maybe it becomes a no in the end. Like, as we said, it's just like, it's a yes until it becomes a no. And life is constantly showing you that if you're tuned into it. It's when we're not tuned into it that we sort of force decisions, and then we sometimes regret them down the track, because we can see where we did it out of, you know, manipulation or need.
And I guess the ultimate thing about teachers and gurus and maybe religion, I don't know, where you get to a point where you virtually outgrow it. It's like, are you able to then let that go? And I think teachers and gurus are a little bit easier to let go of than religion sometimes. And I know you and I have gone through that whole process of letting go of religion in our life. Structured religion. I was going to say, structured religion. Human-made structured religion. Certainly not spirituality. And that's taken a long time. Like, there is a lot of indoctrination that's gone in over the years. We were raised Catholic. Mum and Dad still go to church. We were raised like in Catholic schools. So everything has been centered around that. And as we grew, all four of us, there's four of us, didn't go to church anymore and stuff. So, and we were definitely, hammered about that from Mum and Dad, questioned about whether that was the right thing.
You weren't raised that way.
We weren't raised that way. That was the famous line. We weren't raised that way. So it has taken a long time, because I'm with Jody, who has no religious background at all. So it's been really interesting to be with someone who doesn't have that indoctrination, and how much freer she almost seems with not having that stuff.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, if only I didn't have this, like there's this such programming and you can see it, but it's so hard to let go of because it is so indoctrinated, that just that guilt that comes up
Yes.
Around so many different things. And just bit by bit, you have to deconstruct it to then find your truth in a lifetime sort of thing about what you do believe in and what rituals or practices you want to have, not what's been indoctrinated.
Yeah. And I suppose that key point around that is like the absolute truth behind all religion is that God, whatever the source is of that religion that they've, a lot of people put their power into, it's just like knowing yourself as that is the energy that moves everything. And knowing yourself as that's what the whole teachings were about essentially anyway, was you coming home to that knowing of yourself. So I guess that indoctrination it's that, again, putting that, what do you put your focus on? Do you sort of excavate all the stuff that created that story for you, which is not kind of real anyway, or do you just keep coming home to that truth of like, no, this is actually who I am, and keep bringing your attention back to that place? And yes, your attention will probably drift back off to the storyline of how that unfolded for you, and your parents still said something to you and it kind of triggers that thing again for you, and you go, oh wow, I've still got some power in that story there, look at that, kind of like, yes. So just use it as an opportunity to kind of remind yourself of the truth all the time. So that's all it is. It's just those signs again from the outside. It's almost like the infinite part of you is pointing out where you've still got some power hidden in that story, So
yeah, and maybe there's a bit of a fear there that the ego will take hold of that. It's like I remember when I first heard that concept of like you are God, like you have to be, because everything is one energy. So God has to be everywhere. At all times.
It's kind of a logical conclusion, isn't it, when you follow it? Yeah.
Then you have to be it as well. So then, but the ego can grab hold of that and go, oh, I'm God, I can do whatever I like.
Yes,
and
exactly.
I felt that, and I certainly saw evidence of that in different people.
Definitely see people go down that line. Yes.
At the time, it's like, well, that's not cool, dude. Like the way you're treating that person as if I'm better than you now. And it's like, that's not the answer either.
That's not now actually what I'm saying.
You've just gone into ego again, like this whole I'm better than you. So I guess when I first got confronted with that concept, it certainly makes logical sense. But then I did feel a sense of, oh, okay, this could go really wrong. Like my ego could definitely get hold of this, and I could feel far superior from everyone else.
Yes.
And it did happen a little bit, definitely. But I guess I was a little bit aware of that as well, like because I had sort of had that thought when I first heard this concept.
I think it's part of the journey. Like I think that is actually part of it. Yeah. Like the ego is going to try and get a hold of every little thing that it can to keep its existence, because it doesn't exist otherwise if it doesn't have that separation story going on. So it kind of has to kind of fight for its existence because it needs it. So it's so like you do have to sort of, you do find that you get pulled into all the different aspects of the ego, and then you kind of keep, oh, okay, I can see where I did that now. Like I've gone the other way, that positive negative thing again. Like it's kind of So I've definitely witnessed that happening with some people on this journey as well, and some people still stay in that space. Still definitely in that space that I can think of a couple. So it's just interesting, like that, how it shows up for different people on their journey. And it's like, well, you're going to keep getting humbled in some way. Life is going to keep pointing you back to the truth of who you are. So you can't escape it really at the end of the day. Like it's going to, that's the whole point of the experience, is to wake up to who you truly are as the creator, so you can start playing with it all. So
I guess that's an interesting point. If you put yourself on a pedestal, think you're better than everybody else in one form or another, and even subconsciously doing that, not needing to do it, you will be given humbling circumstances to bring you back down to that level playing field, that neutrality that we're talking about here, which is where the truth sits, where unconditional love sits, where God sits. It's not up, it's not down, it's just that neutrality aspect. And so we are constantly being, if we put ourselves down too much, then something will lift us up to make us realize that oh, we are capable of more things, or oh, I'm not that bad after all. Like I actually can do this stuff, or I do feel really good about myself, sort of thing. Like it's that heartfelt love space for yourself, that ultimate respect and love for who you are as a human being, is your truth. Like you're meant to be playing there.
Yes.
On this sort of up and down compared to everybody else. And I guess we're doing a lot of that right now because we have the opportunity to do that right now, particularly with social media and how much connection we have to other people now. This constant comparing of up and down. You are less than you. It is it has to be a constant reminder of no, everyone's on the same level playing field. Like we're all neutral.
Yes.
Not better, not worse. Just all having individual experiences
of the one
that are all different to each other. Yeah, but in essence are the same thing. Like we're all having, in essence, the same human experience. We're all, and you really see that when you're traveling as well. We're only talking about this the other day. Is like when you travel, you see so much of the essence of people. They all have the same fears, the same guilt, the same striving to better themselves and look after their families and all that. And it just plays out in all different ways. Sometimes they're a bit pushy, and sometimes they're a little bit more laid back, and all the different cultures and different ways people handle that same programming that we're all having. And it's, I guess, when you really see that, you start to just be, oh, wow, that's really cool. That's a really different way of expressing that. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yes.
Seen that before.
Yes, it's a different expression of the same energy. Yes.
Yeah.
I suppose you see that too, just thinking when you have things like natural disasters or, I don't know, times of war or something like that, where people get drawn together because there's a common thing that's happened. So maybe a whole community is affected by an earthquake, and you see like all this aid comes in from everywhere and people fly in to help, and the people that are there sort of assist others that have like maybe got injured, or they give them food, and everyone kind of pulls together. And the underlying current of that is just like we're all the same, we're all in this together, like everybody wants to help the other person at the end of the day, like coming from that space of love. So all the agendas get dropped. And that's kind of like a really good reminder sometimes. Like sometimes you can kind of look at the world and kind of go, wow, like there's all this conflict going on and there's so much stuff. But if you kind of look at the underlying message that comes out of those things, sometimes it's like it's uniting people together. So what if all these things are happening on the outside so that we actually get that as an earth community, that's what it's actually all about. Like if we put our focus on that, maybe we don't need to have all these other things happening on the outside of us to kind of bring us home to that truth all the time. What would happen if we're all looking for evidence of joy and fun and creativity in life versus watching the news every day and getting sucked into all the bad things that are happening around us, and then you get drawn into fear and you start living your life based on fear and need all the time. And it's just like, well, as we said right back in the beginning, it's like, what are you collecting evidence for? What's your brain looking for all the time? You're the only one that can change that at the end of the day. You're totally in charge of what your brain picks up on, what thoughts you think. You might think it's outside of you, but it isn't. Like it all has to come from inside of you. It's all based on that infinite feeling that's moving through you. And the more you can tap into that, the more you know you're not alone, that you are supported. There's always support coming from all around you, whether that looks like God or guides or angels or a TV telling you a message. It doesn't really matter how it comes. But you'll start to see those things a lot more. So that's what we're kind of wanting to do, I guess, with this, is like bring people's attention back to it's always happening. It's always there. It's always prevalent when you put your focus on it.
And we're still feeling into whether we'll have a Facebook group. But if we did have a Facebook group, that would definitely be the basis of it, is people collecting evidence every day of the infinite all around them. Like taking photos or videos of, wow, this really showed up for me today, or writing a story. This is what happened.
Yeah, stories are really cool.
This is what happened to me today in my experience, and it's like why this feels like it's the infinite space to me, and telling that story of why you connected with that, like not just putting up a photo or doing a video. It's like, why is that representing the infinite to you? Like, what are you getting out of that? Tell us that story. So
I think the story is important.
Do that group, because I think it's just a cool way of other people seeing how it's showing up for others too, because then I think it really does expand our horizons of like, oh, it really can show up in different ways here. And there is so much evidence of this stuff. Like, you can't deny it. It's almost like you're trying to settle the egoic mind down enough. If you get enough evidence of something, your mind has to say to yourself, this has to be true.
Yes.
And if that's what it takes for people to really wake up and go, wow, this is true, this whole infinite thing, I didn't really get it at first, but now I'm starting to see so much evidence of it that I can't deny it has to be true.
Yes. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's cool. We will get to that at some stage.
And I think just also asking yourself, like, why, if you do have a certain guidance system that you find works for you and you tap into it, just sort of questioning that, saying, okay, what is it about that I'm really liking? Like, what is this telling me about myself? Like, if it's in the case of religion, just saying, okay, what is the core teachings and like the actual truth of those, and really start drilling down into those rather than looking at maybe the dogmatic way that it's taught or the particular teacher that you have. Because I'm just thinking, like, for example, when we were growing up going to church, the difference in a priest can make such a major impact in how you take in the actual truth of the information. So I remember having a really young kind of a priest who started a youth group, and he was so tapped into like what spirituality was all about, and so you got that from him. And then you had like an older generation kind of priest that was very, very dogmatic, and everything became about money for the church. Like, it was so, like, even as a little kid, I can just remember the feeling of like they're always asking for money, like, and it just constantly, even though I probably wouldn't have understood like money and all that at the time, but it just has this constant feel like this just doesn't feel right. Like, there's just something about it that just felt off. Like, but then you had another priest that was completely different. So it depended on which priest you got on a Sunday and like how you felt walking out. That's what I noticed anyway. Whether everybody else there felt the same, but it was kind of like just starting to question. It does really depend on the delivery of the information too, and what feels true for you as well. Like, you have to question whether it sits with you or not, but look at the actual absolute truth underneath things and start to follow your own line of questioning to see if it fits for you, if it's actually true. Yeah, and
I think that's the summary really of this whole session, is you have to feel in and question everything, feel into your truth and go, okay, this fits, this doesn't fit. And just bit by bit, you piece it all together. Piece together what's true for you and how you want to live.
I was even that age-old question. I'm just thinking of like, does God exist? Like, you have atheists and you have, very fundamentalist kind of people about, this conversation will go on till the end of time. Like, it's kind of, how do you prove any of this sort of stuff? It is just a feeling that comes through you at the end of the day. But if you follow that line of questioning, and to say, if you have any kind of sense of, well, there has to be something that's kind of organizing this whole life, like at the interactions of people, even how our human body works, and that we rely on oxygen, and then we're in this earth atmosphere that trees breathe out CO2, and we breathe out the CO2, and the trees need that, and they produce the oxygen that we need. And it's just, you sort of think that like the intricacy and the creativity that's gone into this world. It's really kind of, in my mind, it's very undeniable to kind of go, there has to be something bigger than this little finite human body that thinks it knows all the answers to everything. What is this thing that kind of animates everything? And it's just like, at the end of the day, it feels to me, it's like, well, you have to be that, because if humans came from that, then you're actually part of that. So everything is part of the one thing. So you have to, I know the logical conclusion when you follow it down, if you let yourself follow it down, is just like, I have to be that as well. Like, I have to be an expression of that. I have to be like a finite expression of that infinite energy that's animating the whole universe. And that's kind of a big concept to get, when you're coming at it from the little human brain, it's a very big concept to get your head around. And it is an unknowable thing. As we said, language just doesn't do it justice. It's kind of, it is a feeling, something you tap into. You have to start being present to it and looking for it all around you and knowing it as yourself and starting to act from that space and following it only when it feels.
That's it, like feeling it in every essence, fiber of your body type thing. It's like there's a part of you, and I think we've talked about this before, different concepts we've come across and from different teachers and stuff. It's like, I don't really get what you just said, but I can really feel what you're saying.
Feel it.
I can't deny it's true, because it just feels like it's true. And then in time you integrate it and you just know it. They're really the conscious knowing at that point. They're like, yeah,
Yes.
right. And then you can articulate it and talk about it, I guess. Like
Yeah.
it's sort of whole integration process takes time.
Yeah, because the brain wants to understand it and put it into language and break it down.
Yeah.
And sometimes
it.
feeling is very hard to put into language. Like it's just like you just know something. Because like, someone say, well, how do you know that? And it's like, I don't know. I just know. Like it's then maybe in time, as you said, you could put language to it. Sometimes even then you can't. Like it's just it is just a knowing that you feel within you. So I think everyone would have had an experience of that, and you know what that feels like. That's what we're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and even languages themselves can be very restrictive.
Yes.
The Germanic language, of course, which is based in English, is really hard. We have such limited adjectives for things.
Yes.
They're almost repetitive.
Yeah, well, definitely.
But then the Romantic languages have so many more minute expressions and subsets of expressions and things like that. It definitely is easier in that language. So language itself can also impact what language you're speaking.
Definitely.
Very much impact how a message gets delivered and how it can be delivered. So it's it's actually quite interesting.
Yes.
There you go.
Well, hopefully you found it interesting today, or it sparked some thoughts for you. So share in the comments if you have any feedback or stories that you'd like to share for yourself, or
what's happening for you right now. Yeah, some people have been sharing what's happening for them right now, which is actually sort of following the path of what we're talking about here, which is really cool.
Yes.
So people that are recognizing their own teachers that they've had over the years, and they're now surpassing them. And, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's letting them go with love and gratitude for where they're at and what you've learned along the way, and it's time to move on.
Yes.
So yeah, it's really cool. It's awesome. Groovy. All right. Well, we'll chat again tomorrow.
Yes. See you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us.
All righty. Stay infinite.
Bye.
Like you, Pluto.